Hey, it's Saoirse, and today I want to talk about The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. So, I showed you this copy before. This was my mom's. This is the back cover. There is no front cover anymore. This is from, I think it's 1964, 67? Maybe 1967, so it looks pretty bad for 67, but it's not my fault. This fell off while I was reading it, so bye. So I did not have to read this in high school, which I know a lot of people do. And I gotta say, I'm pretty envious if you read this in high school. I never really understood why my high school didn't require it. We read a lot of good things. This just wasn't one of them. And I think that if I had read it back then, it might have affected me even more than it did, because I loved it. You know, this was my first time reading it, and I'm 24. If I had been, 16, like Holden, then, come on, then I might have, I still have teenage angst, and I'm not a teen, but I would have had maybe more, and the reading experience might have been different. So I recommend that you read this if you're a teenager. Absolutely. Because I do feel like I missed out kind of on that, but I really, really loved the writing style of it. I loved what it had to say. So basically, if you don't know the story of The Catcher in the Rye, I mean, it's a classic, but I had no idea what the story was. I just knew, like, the name Holden Caulfield, and it's a classic, and then I opened it and I was like, what is this? I didn't think it was going to be this, like, moody, angry teenager using bad language and walking around New York for a couple days. I had no idea what it was about, because the title really doesn't make sense unless you read the book, and it took a while to get to the part where they talk about the title. I have notes, but I also have coffee, and if you know me, you know I don't drink coffee, and I can't drink coffee, and I shouldn't. But today, I'm feeling reckless. So here we are. Okay, so I started out when I was beginning the book. I did not love Holden. Who loves Holden right off the bat? I don't know. But it's, okay, I should have said this book is about a boy named Holden Caulfield who gets pretty much kicked out of his, like, fancy prep school and doesn't want to tell his parents right away. So he just kind of leaves campus and goes back home to New York and hangs around the city for a while by himself. Just putting off the moment when he has to disappoint his parents that he's been kicked out of yet another school. And that's pretty much it. Excuse me, Springer. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. That's the plot of the book. Okay? So, in the beginning, you're like, oh, this Holden, look at him. He doesn't do anything right. He's just a naughty boy, and he doesn't want to do his work, but he's really good at English. So what's that about? Maybe he actually is smart, and he just doesn't want to apply himself to subjects that don't interest him. You know, we've all seen that. In school, we probably have all experienced that ourselves. I mean, I was horrible at math, but I forced myself to do it. But some people, they can't make themselves do something that is completely uninteresting to them. But Holden is good at English, he's good at writing. He talks about his brother who would write poetry on a baseball glove, and his brother passed away. So when you find that out, that's like the first moment where you're like, oh, there's more to Holden. He's not just an angry teenager for no reason. He's not just moody and unwilling to do his work. There's something more to his story that we don't know about yet. So he starts talking about his brother, and you realize there's this, like, this big heart in him, and he has a lot of love for the people that he thinks deserve his love. But the main thing in the book is that he thinks most of the world is just crap. Most people are phony. That's the word he likes to use over and over. People are just phony. They're fake. So, in the beginning, like I said, didn't really like him, and then as it went on, although he did things that I maybe wouldn't have gotten myself into certain situations, come on, buddy. He talked about them in a way that I really connected to, and this is just me. Who else thought that the way that he progressed throughout the book and like how frantic his thoughts became kind of seemed like he had manic depression? Because he started out, you'd think he was just, I don't know, he just didn't get along with his roommates at the boarding school. He was just not so happy with his life, but then you find out, okay, he's actually depressed, and he starts to say it a lot. He starts to say, oh, that just made me so depressed. But he says it with this lighthearted tone, or this, you know, angsty or like disapproving tone, kind of condescending to the rest of the world that isn't him, or isn't his sister or his brother or kids, because he seems to really like kids because they haven't been corrupted by the world yet. Which I work with kids, and I can totally relate to that. You see them, and to a certain age, they seem so innocent, like these sweet little angels, and then it just starts to turn, and they become obsessed with what other people think, and being perfect, and being better than everybody else, or just, you know, succeeding at all costs. Like, it doesn't matter to them if they sacrifice who they really are, as long as they're getting ahead in life. They start to forget, you know, how to be joyful, how to smile at little things. So Holden really likes to see kids just being kids, having fun, and not getting caught up in the phony adult world. Where was I going with that? So, yeah, manic depression. He definitely, like, I didn't know what was going to happen in the book, so most of the time I was like, oh my god, he's going to kill himself. Like, I really thought that was coming. Because it felt like it was really escalating. And, like, the writing style, the unique voice that Salinger uses to write Holden is the best part of the book, obviously. It's like, the reason that, well, there's probably many reasons it was never made into a movie, which surprised me at first, is that you can't really take this story, which is all Holden's voice, and turn it into something just visual. I mean, the whole thing would have to be narrated by Holden, and who can you find to play Holden? Probably nobody. Although I would love to see it, but Holden talks so much about how he hates the movies and phonies and all that, so, like, making a movie out of this book would be totally against a lot of it. But yeah, so the unique voice is what really stands out to me. Like, from the very first page, you go, okay, this is somebody. This is a person who really has something different to say, and he has it to say. What am I saying? Where's my unique voice? He has something to say in a way that's different than anybody else would say it, even if people do, like, have the same feelings that he does, which I think a lot of teenagers, a lot of people go through a lot of these feelings, but they don't know how to talk about it, and everybody just goes around pretending they're fine and being phony. But Holden's like, I want to talk about it. The first sentence, let's see, he says, if you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born, and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied, and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap, but I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. In the first place, that stuff bores me, and in the second place, my parents would have about 2 hemorrhages apiece if I told anything pretty personal about them. So, yeah, right off the bat, you feel like you're already getting to know him. And that is something that I really admire in writing, because as a writer, it can be hard to not just write the same character over and over in every story that I write. Because, and also, like, having characters in the same book talking to each other, making their dialogue sound different from the other person's dialogue. It's really not as easy as you might think. Or maybe you know that it's difficult. It's difficult to make somebody sound different. You know, we all sound different in our real lives, but we don't really think about what makes our individual voices different. You know what I mean? So, oh, my camera's dying, and I will lose my mind if this doesn't record all the way. I'm not sure what to do. Should I stop this? I don't know how to edit videos. That's an issue. Here, maybe I'll just stop it and I'll try to figure this out. Here we are with take 2. Hopefully I can figure out how to edit 2 videos together. So, what I like about this book is that there's, like I said, like no real big plot. It's a character study. And that's my favorite kind of literature. I love just diving into somebody's brain and hearing not just their story, but their outlook on the world, which is what Holden gives us a lot of. So, I just want to read some quotes. Okay, he's talking about this guy that goes to his school that went out with this girl that Holden liked. He says, he kept holding onto my wrists and I kept calling him a son of a bitch and all for around 10 hours. I can hardly even remember what all I said to him. I told him he thought he could give the time to anybody he felt like. I told him he didn't even care if a girl kept all her kings in the back row or not. And the reason he didn't care was because he was a goddamn stupid moron. He hated it when you called him a moron. All morons hate it when you call them a moron. So I just love how Holden, like, he cares about these things about this girl, like the fact that when she played, I think it was checkers, she kept all her kings in the back row and never moved them. And this guy that is going out with her now, he doesn't care about that kind of stuff. And Holden is really mad about it. I just like that he notices these little things. Oh, here's another one. One thing about packing depressed me a little. I had to pack these brand new ice skates my mother had practically just sent me a couple of days before. That depressed me. I could see my mother going into Spalding's and asking the salesman a million dopey questions, and here I was getting the axe again. It made me feel pretty sad. She bought me the wrong kind of skates. I wanted racing skates, and she bought hockey. But it made me sad anyway. Almost every time somebody gives me a present, it ends up making me sad. I really liked that. Just because, like, I've felt that way before, too. I don't know. When somebody gets you a present, it makes you sad. Yeah, I don't know, it makes me almost feel guilty that they did something for me. And then at the end of this page, it's so funny. He's leaving his school, like, in the middle of the night. He says, when I was all set to go, when I had my bags and all, I stood for a while next to the stairs and took a last look down the goddamn corridor. I was sort of crying. I don't know why. I put my red hunting hat on and turned the peak around to the back the way I liked it. And then I yelled at the top of my goddamn voice, "Sleep tight, you morons." I'll bet I woke up every bastard on the whole floor. Then I got the hell out. Some stupid guy had thrown peanut shells all over the stairs and I damn near broke my crazy neck. I laughed at that part for like 10 hours. Exaggeration, just like Holden. Seriously though, I kept thinking about that part where he says I damn near broke my crazy neck. I just love that. Crazy neck. What a fun phrase. It's perfect. What else do we have here? There's so many good ones. And it's just the whole thing. It's like full of this voice of his that is so recognizable. That like when you're done reading the book, you can't stop thinking in Holden's voice. He says, all of a sudden, on my way out to the lobby, I got old Jane Gallagher on the brain again. I got her on and I couldn't get her off. I sat down in this vomity-looking chair in the lobby and thought about her and Stradlater sitting in that goddamn Ed Banky's car, and though I was pretty damn sure old Stradlater hadn't given her the time, I know old Jane like a book, I still couldn't get her off my brain. I knew her like a book, I really did. I mean, besides checkers, she was quite fond of all athletic sports, and after I got to know her, the whole summer long we played tennis together almost every morning and golf almost every afternoon. I really got to know her quite intimately. I don't mean it was anything physical or anything, it wasn't. But we saw each other all the time. You don't always have to get too sexy to get to know a girl. It's really good advice right there. Get to know somebody's brain. That's important too. Alright. Oh. Then she left. The Navy guy and I told each other we were glad to have met each other, which always kills me. I'm always saying glad to have met you to somebody I'm not at all glad I met. If you want to stay alive, you have to say that stuff, though. Very true. And sad. Horrible. he's talking about how he wants to read Hamlet. The trouble with me is I always have to read that stuff by myself. If an actor acts it out, I hardly listen. I keep worrying about whether he's going to do something phony every minute, which I do when I'm watching movies. I just keep analyzing how they're acting, and I think, well, can I tell they're acting right now, or are they being convincing enough so I don't know they're acting? But I always know they're acting. Yeah, I think the same way. I just like this sad description of growing up. He says, I said no. There wouldn't be marvelous places to go after I went to college and all. Open your ears. It'd be entirely different. We'd have to go downstairs in elevators with suitcases and stuff. We'd have to phone up everybody and tell them goodbye and send them postcards from hotels and all. And I'd be working in some office, making a lot of dough and riding to work in cabs and Madison Avenue buses and reading newspapers and playing bridge all the time and going to the movies and seeing a lot of stupid shorts and coming attractions and newsreels. Newsreels! Christ almighty, there's always a dumb horse race and some dame breaking a bottle over a ship and some chimpanzee riding a goddamn bicycle with pants on. It wouldn't be the same at all. You don't see what I mean at all. That frustration with, like, having to grow up, be an adult, and what that means, and how it's like this loss of everything real. It's just sad. Caddy, I see you. I see you. Oh, this is where you get the title of the book. He's talking to his sister. Anyway, I keep picturing all these little kids playing some game in this big field of rye and all. Thousands of little kids, and nobody's around. Nobody big, I mean, except me. And I'm standing on the edge of some crazy cliff. What I have to do, I have to catch everybody if they start to go over the cliff. I mean, if they're running and they don't look where they're going, I have to come out from somewhere and catch them. That's all I'd do all day. I'd just be the catcher in the rye and all. I know it's crazy, but that's the only thing I'd really like to be. I know it's crazy. Interpret that how you want. Anyway, I kept walking and walking up Fifth Avenue without any tie on or anything. Then all of a sudden, something very spooky started happening. Every time I came to the end of a block and stepped off the goddamn curb, I had this feeling that I'd never get to the other side of the street. I thought I'd just go down, 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 and nobody'd ever see me again. Boy, did it scare me, you can't imagine. I started sweating like a bastard, my whole shirt and underwear and everything. Then I started doing something else. Every time I'd get to the end of a block, I'd make believe I was talking to my brother Allie. I'd say to him, Allie, don't let me disappear. Allie, don't let me disappear. Allie, don't let me disappear. Please, Allie. And then when I'd reach the other side of the street without disappearing, I'd thank him. And then it would start all over again, as soon as I got to the corner. I really like that example of, I don't even want to call it angst because that makes it sound cheap, but just this feeling that you can disappear, that you can just stop existing and it wouldn't change anything in the world. Oh. Okay, last one, I think. That's the whole trouble. You can't ever find a place that's nice and peaceful because there isn't any. You may think there is, but once you get there, when you're not looking, somebody will sneak up and write F-U right under your nose. Try it sometime. I think even if I ever die and they stick me in a cemetery and I have a tombstone and all, it'll say Holden Caulfield on it, and then what year I was born and what year I died, and then right under that it'll say F-U. I'm positive, in fact. And I edited that a little bit. It doesn't say F-U. But I don't know who's watching this, so. Okay, so what I really noticed about this book and loved is that it is so similar to one of my favorite books of all time, which is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This now feels to me like the modern day Catcher in the Rye. And I know they mentioned Catcher in the Rye a few times in here, like they're reading it in their English class, and it all makes sense now. The way that the main character addresses the audience, his thoughts about the world, his loneliness, his anxiety, his depression, it's very, very similar to Holden's. So Charlie and Holden, definitely cut from the same cloth. But I think, like, Charlie, he's just very confused about the world. He doesn't understand people and why they are so cruel and why they are so fake. Whereas Holden, he knows and he's just mad about it. So, those are some of my thoughts about this book. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I wish I could have read it when I was younger because Perks of Being a Wallflower definitely affected me a lot. And I think that Catcher in the Rye would have done the same thing, but yeah, as an adult I really appreciated it. So next, I'm going to talk about At Home in the World by Joyce Maynard. And this book deals a lot with her relationship with J.D. Salinger. She was in a relationship with him when she was 18 and he was 53. And so I thought I'd read Catcher in the Rye first and then read this, so I had a little more of an understanding about Salinger, who he was as a writer. And this was really, really good. I can't wait to talk about it. So I'll leave it there. I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.